Shalom, Kalahalayim, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Recha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS who rule well, who I learned this truth from, and salutations and blessings to you elect out there, 144,000 and the 1/3. So this is a picture you see here. It says why people can't see the truth, and this is going into this guy Yuri Bezmenov, who was KGB, right, informant. It says informant and disinformation expert who defected to Canada, right? It says he is best remembered for his anti-communist lectures and books in the 1980s. And he says here, quote, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who is demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell him nothing, even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents and pictures, he will refuse to believe it. And it's just like all the brothers on the highways. For years we had the posters, we had signs, we had books out. Like when people came to our camp years ago, we had books in our backpack. We had articles, pictures, information, and the majority of people could not um it didn't compute in their mind. It was like it was like an antivirus, but you know their system is hacked by the virus. So it looked at us like a virus, but these people couldn't really see it at all, especially Jake's heathens, right? It says that's the tragedy of the situation of demoralization. Once people's morals have been debased, education becomes indoctrination, entertainment becomes hypnotism, criminals become leaders, and lies become truth, and this is the world we're living in. And there's a lot of things I can say. What's coming to mind first, though, is look, this is Esau telling on Esau. He was tired of living there when whatever happened, the spirit got on him. He fled. He was a defector, and he started spilling the beans of how they brainwash people. There's a good YouTube video of him. But let me get this. This is Job 15:5. For thy mouth uttereth thine iniquity, and thou choosest the tongue of the crafty. Thine own mouth condemneth thee, and not I. Yea, thine own lips testify against thee. Right? And let's read this in the NLT. Verse 5, your sins are telling your mouth what to say. Your words are based on clever deception. Your own mouth condemns you, not I. Your own lips testify against you. Right? And you have a lot of these whistleblowers that the spirit, either way, it's of the Lord, right? Whether it's of Satan or on the left hand or on the right hand side. But the spirit got on him, on different people, to bring out information, right, on how these different things work. Now, let me go over here. This is from bigthink.com. It says 39 years ago, a KGB defector chillingly predicted modern America. A disturbing interview given by a KGB defector in 1984 describes America of today and outlines 4 stages of mass brainwashing used by the KGB. And the KGB, right, that was the Russians. America, I'll say, they operate on a higher level, the highest level really of witchcraft in the world, because it is the whore that sitteth upon the beast, and her cup is full of abominations. But you can still learn a thing or two from these guys, because they were brainwashing people, very, what's that word? You could see it outwardly. It wasn't hidden. They knew that, hey, you better listen to these guys or you're gonna go to prison. You had people in the black trucks and the black get up, and they come to your house at night and pull you out of your home and take you off somewhere. That was real. So it says here, a former agent named Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov claimed in 1984 that Russia has a long-term goal of ideologically subverting the U.S. He described the process as a great brainwashing that has 4 basic stages. The first stage, he said, is called demoralization, which would take about 20 years to achieve. Now you have to understand, Esau, he works he's a very, look, man, let me get this scripture. He's a very crafty man, right? Let me go Psalm 64 and 6. It says, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought, let me get this actually in Psalm 64 and 5, because I want to read it in NLT after. It says, they encourage themselves in, sorry, verse 6. Psalm 64 and 6, they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly shall they be wounded. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. Right? Get this in the NLT, verse 6. As they plot their crimes, they say, we have devised the perfect plan. Yes, the human heart and mind are cunning. Right? And their mind, their heart and their mind is especially cunning. Right? Genesis 3, the serpent was the most subtle creature, in the field, on the earth. Verse 8, I'll jump down. Their own tongues will ruin them, and all who see them will shake their heads in scorn. Right? So, look, a lot of this information is coming out because the spirit of revealing. Right? This is the time where everything is coming out. How all these things work, how society works. And he said 20 years. You had this guy I did a lesson on, Edward Bernays, known as the father of public relations and the father of propaganda. He was, I believe, the cousin of, I found this out later, that he was a cousin of Sigmund Freud, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So all these elites, all these top guys, these influential people in the world, whether they're bankers, entertainers, psychologists, doctors, right? They're all pretty much connected. They're all occultists. They're all Luciferians. They worship Satan, right? They're in whatever fraternity or group or lodge that they belong to. So 20 years, first of all, it didn't happen in that year. It was hatched. That plan was hatched, and wheels of motion. Things have to happen. And things don't happen just in a day or a month or a year, right? There's time, decades that take place. So these devils, they hatch plans decades, centuries before. It says the heart of them is deep, right? It says in 1954, early on in the Cold War, the Soviet Union created the Committee for State Security, more commonly known in the West as the KGB. The group came to oversee the Soviet Union's internal security, secret police, and domestic and foreign intelligence operations. Across the world, the KGB did whatever it could to thwart pro-Western and anti-Soviet political movements and figures. The group would assassinate political leaders with cyanide and other weapons. It would fund and arm leftist groups, especially those in developing nations, and the KGB successfully established moles in U.S. intelligence agencies, though the exact number still isn't and may never be known for sure. Also, unclear were the group's long-term plans involving the U.S. One glimpse, however, comes from a former KGB agent named Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov, who defected to Canada in 1970. He claimed to know details of a Soviet plan to undermine the U.S., not on the battlefield, but in the psyche of the American people. In 1984, Bezmenov gave an interview to G. Edward Griffin, from which much can be learned today. His most chilling point was that there is a long-term plan put in play by Russia to defeat America through psychological warfare and demoralization. It's a long game that takes decades to achieve, but it may already be bearing fruit. Bezmenov made the point that the work of the KGB mainly does not involve espionage, despite what our popular culture may tell us. Most of the work, 85% of it, was a slow process, which we call either ideological subversion, active measures, or psychological warfare, which whatever this guy's saying about, oh, Russia has this plan and America's been doing this, the elites, not America, not the regular Joe, not the senator, not the president. These guys are puppets. They take orders. They're in fraternities. They know the deal, who they have to serve. They know what's going on. But the top elites, okay, the ones that took over during the Bolshevik Revolution, those people, which I can't name, right, the Bolsheviks, communists, whatever they were called, right, all those different terms, um, Marxists, fascists. So those people have been pushing that propaganda, ideological subversion, psychological warfare on the people, on the American people, Canadian, Western world, right? So that has been already in the process for generations. This is something that Esau's figured out. How do we shape ideologies? How do we shape what people believe in? What are their passions and desires? What their fashion and what they're going to listen to and what they're going to watch? How do we shape all that? How do we, or how do we form that? You know, but really, yeah, how do you shape that like a pot maker, right? Or a person that works with clay. How do you shape that? They figured that out, right? It says, what does that mean? Bezmenov explained that the most striking thing about ideological subversion is that it happens in the open as a legitimate process. You can see it with your own eyes, he said. The American media would be able to see it if it just focused on it. Here's how he further defined ideological subversion. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. And you know what this goes into? Second Ezra 5 about there shall be confusion in many places. And you can clearly see that you have all these issues in the world, all these causes, all these things, events happening, but there's no clear conclusions, man. There's conclusions, there's confusion. There's no clear conclusions, there's just confusion. All right? Nobody can get to the bottom of things. What's really going down? What's happening? Things are just sprouting up. But who are they being sprouted up by? Who's planting the seeds and watching it hatch and rubbing their hands and drinking a nice Louis XIII cognac by a fireplace? Yes, this is a good plan. It's working. Who's really who? How is this happening? Because you people think it's just randomness or it's just how life is. You people don't know what the hell's going on. People have no clue. So it says Bezmenov described this process as a great brainwashing that has four basic stages. The first stage is called demoralization. When did this happen in America? In the 60s. Hippie, free love, revolution, right? Free thinking, liberal, right? What came with that? Adultery, mass free sex, right? Which is adultery and fornication, just madness, orgies and all that madness, drugs, paraphernalia, right? So demons came through in that way to demoralize you. And then what happened, right? Women went from long dresses to the knee. Oh, you could see her knee. That was no. First it was a calf. You could see. Oh, you could see her calf. That was the talk of the older women or whoever. That was the talk of the town. You could see her calves, and then they went to the knee. Oh, you could see her knee, and now the thigh. Now it's just a damn mini skirt or whatever. Now it's a see-through. You could see the ass and the thong and everything. You could see the nipples, right? It's all bugged out because you have been brainwashed into or brain. How is it? What's that term? You haven't been brainwashed. You've been you got your brain shutted on, man, by some vile, pure madness, defilement. Talking about my booty hole brown and suck my toes and all on the radio about girls love girls where I'm from, all on the radio, all for kids to consume and even adults, right? Which you're being hypnotized, as this guy said. It's hypnotism, right? It's different trances and states that your brain is in. You have different frequencies, alpha wave, beta, etc. Esau tapped into all of that. So it says the first stage is called demoralization, which takes from 15 to 20 years. So count from the 60s to what? To the 80s, right? So from the 80s, now the 80s, it was completely bugged out. You already know what's going on, but the point is from 40s, 50s, that was Esau's heyday, you know, white picket fence. Um, what's that show called? I forgot that show, black and white show. Leave It to Beaver and all these, Mr. Rogers. That was Esau's time, right? And then what happened? You seen what happened. So he's right. 15 to 20 years, according to the former KGB agent, that is the minimum number of years it takes to re-educate one generation of students that is normally exposed to the ideology of its country. In other words, the time it takes to change what the people are thinking. He used the example examples of 1960s hippies coming to positions of power in the 1980s in the government and businesses of America. Bezmenov claimed his generation was already contaminated by Marxist Leninist values. Of course, this claim that many baby boomers are somehow espousing KGB tainted ideas is hard to believe, but Bezmenov's larger point addresses why people who have been gradually demoralized are unable to understand that this has happened to them. Referring to such people, Bezmenov said, they are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern, alluding to Pavlov. You cannot change their mind even if you expose them to authentic information. Even if you prove that white is black and black is white, you still cannot change the perception and the logic of behavior. Demoralization is a process that is irreversible. Bezmenov actually thought back in 1984 that the process of demoralizing America was already completed. It would take another generation and another couple of decades to get the people to think differently and return to their patriotic American values, claimed the agent. In what is perhaps the most striking passage in the interview, here's how Bezmenov described the state of a demoralized person. So, this is the state of a demoralized person. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. Said Bezmenov, a person who is demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell him nothing. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him a concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he receives a kick in his fan bottom. When a military brute crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragedy of the situation of demoralization. It's hard not to see in that state of many modern Americans. We have become a society of polarized tribes, with some people flat out rejecting facts in favor of narratives and opinions. Once demoralization is completed, the second stage of demoralization, once demoralization is completed, the second stage of ideological brainwashing is destabilization. During this 2 to 5 year period, asserted Bezmenov, what matters is the targeting of essential structural elements of a nation, economy, foreign relations, and defense systems. Basically, the subverter, Russia, would look to destabilize every one of those areas in the United States, considerably weakening it. The third stage would be crisis. It would take only up to 6 weeks to send the country into crisis, explained Bezmenov. The crisis would bring a violent change of power, structure, and economy, and will be followed by the last stage, normalization. That's when your country is basically taken over, living under a new ideology and reality. This will happen to America unless it gets rid of people who will bring it to a crisis, warned Bezmenov. What's more, if people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help the United States, adding, you may kiss goodbye to your freedom. It bears saying that when he made this statement, he was warning about baby boomers and Democrats of the time. In another somewhat terrifying excerpt, here's what Bezmenov had to say about what is really happening in the United States. It may think it is living in peace, but it has been actively at war with Russia, and for some time. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at the peacetime, said the former KGB agent. False. The United States is in a state of war. Undeclared, total war against the basic principles and foundations of the system. And here you can watch the complete interview, which is a good video. But again, he brings out a lot of points. Some things are off, but this is to show you that, man, it's completely a blessing to understand this truth, because our minds, our eyes, our ears were covered with a gross darkness, just like these people you see walking, right? They just celebrated Christmas, right? You stupid people just wasted all your money on Christmas, some stupid Christmas, right? And now you're getting ready to celebrate the so-called New Year, right? And now 2024, they just said groceries are going up another $700, right? So, these people, man, that's why the scriptures say, follow not a multitude to do evil. Follow the crowd, go with the flow, right? A lot of people are really simple, man. and you have levels of minds, levels of cunningness, and you just have higher people that control those people. And that's always been that way, for good or better. Nothing wrong with being a simple man. You can be a farmer, you can be, a blacksmith, whatever it is, man. And if you're led by a righteous king, that's what kings and different leaders are for, and elders and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the level you're on, right? And it doesn't mean you're stupid either. But I'm just saying there's levels, man, of cunningness and perception and understanding things and how you move and all that. Anyway, I hope you found this edifying, and I hope you do your own research. Kal halayim la Yahweh ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai ba'Hashem Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS who rule well, who I learned this truth from. Apostles, elders, and bishops on down. And Kwam Yasharallah, Shalom to the elect, 144,001 third.